What's up, Acadiana, and welcome to Offsides. I'm Shannon Wilkerson, here with Brandon Comeaux. Thanks for joining us for today's broadcast. We'll be with you until 6 o'clock. It's currently 4:06 on a rainy Thursday afternoon. One more day until the weekend. NFL football starts tonight.
Oh, yeah.
That's exciting. And the weekend's almost here with the debut of the football season for all the other teams.
Yep.
And so that's going to be an exciting time. At least for, I know, you and I.
By the way, for those of you that still do watch the NFL, I would encourage you to go to the Pick'em on our website, kpel965.com. Get involved once again. We did a lot of that last year.
That was a lot of fun, yeah.
It was a lot of fun, so make sure you put in your picks for this year's season, if you still watch the NFL.
Yeah, very user-friendly and fun to do week to week. And so, yeah. Okay, so, obviously, big story today. About the story that was published in the New York Times entitled, "I am part of the resistance inside the Trump administration." Now, this was a choice that the New York Times made to publish this. This was a report that was given to them by somebody who identifies themselves as a senior officer within the Trump administration currently, still holding their seat in the Trump administration and working day to day in the White House and in the West Wing with the president. This is an op-ed essay that was delivered, and the Times is, as they call, taking a rare step of publishing an anonymous op-ed essay. I don't think that this is responsible at all journalism. I think that the New York Times is just turning into tabloid journalism. I think that this is very unprofessional, and I cannot give any credibility to anybody that wants to remain anonymous. Now, if this is somebody that wants to resign their position and then make these accusations about what's going on with the president and what's going on within his administration in the White House, that's completely different. Brandon and I are going to get into the report itself, but I will tell you this. Of course, the president did respond, as he always does. One thing you can always depend on with President Trump is a quick response, and an aggressive one at that. And he says, and I quote, "If the gutless anonymous person does indeed exist, the Times must, for national security purposes, turn him or her over to the government at once." I think that is justified. I think that this is really bad journalism, as I mentioned before, and I would not be opposed to, in fact, I would be supportive if President Trump ordered polygraphs of everybody within his administration. I think that somebody who owned a company and and you had somebody that had apparently reported information about your company and made it public, and that information was scarring the reputation of your company, I think it would be completely within that company's rights to order a polygraph of all the senior officials within that company to find out who it is. This person might not even exist.
Well, first off, this person, and I think gutless and also adds self-righteous to this person as well, we're gonna find out who it is, because by process of elimination, you've got people right now in the Trump administration, starting with Vice President Mike Pence, which, by the way, nobody suspected Mike Pence of being this writer.
Yes.
But Mike Pence came out and said, "Hey, I am not the one that wrote
I never thought for a second it was him.
Nobody thought that. But there's a lot of people such as Mike Pence, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, who else? Director of National Intelligence Dan Coates. You've got so many administration, I could keep reading, that have all come out and said, we are not the ones that wrote this.
Yes.
And so through process of elimination, it's going to be found out who this person is. And I don't think this person realizes that once they're found out, they're going to hope that they have the backing of Democrats and other Republicans that are a part of this quote-unquote deep state.
Yeah.
But I think when this person realizes that they've been found out eventually and the repercussions for that, I don't think they're going to realize the gravity of all of this and how it's going to fall on them.
Maybe. I hear you, and I would agree with you with normal circumstances. However, I think that all this person has to do is flip. And I think that they've already laid the groundwork and the foundation to flip, and they will be a hero for the left. All right, so this person will then launch a whole new career, okay, catering to a completely new group of people than they've been catering to for most of their political career. Likely so. Of course, we're basing that opinion that this is somebody that is conservative Republican in nature.
Right.
All right. But once this person is found out, if in fact they are found out, and I think that they will be, I think that they are going to be glamorized and they're going to be hanging with the Hollywood elite. They're going to be on The View. They're going to be on Jimmy Fallon. They're going to be the new hero of the left. And so I hear what you're saying when you say that they don't understand the gravity of what is going to come down upon them. I think that they're just simply going to resign, and then they are going to become, as I mentioned before, enjoying a whole new career, probably making more money and having more popularity and more support than they ever had before in their political career.
Okay, now, when I hear that, there's a lot of truth in that. But here's why. See, we're basing that off of the left being made up of fully, sane and rational individuals. But the left, the Democrats don't always stick together anymore.
They do when it comes to bashing the president.
They do when it comes to bashing him, but their latest star, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, okay? Now, she is someone that liberals and progressives have come out in droves to show their support. Now they're starting to turn on her now because she made some comments about Linda Sarsour, which has become a prominent movement in the the resistance movement. Well, she put out a tweet about her, and now liberals are starting to come after her. We're starting to see they're starting to kind of eat their own.
They'll eat their own in the end. Okay, I hear what you're saying. But getting back to this person, this anonymous person,
right?
And as I mentioned before, I think that they are wanting to act as if they are whistleblowers. Okay, but you can't use that support or that shield of being a whistleblower when you work for the U.S. government and you work as a top administration. You are a senior official in the White House. And and I'll tell you, there's a lot, and of course the phone lines have exploded, and we're going to get right to them in just a second. Let me tell you, reading through this essay that the New York Times published. First, I think that it was very irresponsible for them to publish it in the first place. It makes them like a tabloid, as I mentioned before. Okay, there's everything about this. We could take every comment in this essay and do a whole hour on it here on Offsides. Okay, because it is so direct, insulting, and dangerous in many ways. But this is one of the ones that stood out for me. And I'm going to read it to you in quotes. Given the instability many witnessed, there were early whispers within the cabinet of invoking the 25th Amendment, which would start a complex process for removing the president. But no one wanted to precipitate a constitutional crisis. So we will do what we can to steer the administration in the right direction until, one way or another, it's over. Now, to me, that sounds like a beginning of a foundation for a coup. Right? These are people. Now, what he's claiming, or what she is claiming, is that there has been actual conversations within Trump's administration and senior officials to evoke the 25th Amendment. So that's one of the things that really stood out to me as very disturbing. And I think that that's where you get into a situation where this could be considered treasonous.
Well, let's continue to expound on that, because that was what stuck out to me, or one of the things that stuck out to me as well, because President Trump put on Twitter, treason, all caps with a question mark, and he brings up a really good point, and there's a couple of quotes in here to pull from that make me believe that this is of the treasonous nature. One of the quotes, "I work for the president, but like-minded colleagues and I have vowed to thwart parts of his agenda and his worst inclination." That's one of them. And then there was another quote that came from here as well. "That is why many Trump appointees have vowed to do what we can to preserve our democratic institutions while thwarting Mr. Trump's more misguided impulses until he is out of office." They are working to undermine the President of the United States.
Absolutely. In fact, he goes on to describe situations where they would actually take things off of his desk. Oh, I'm sorry. That's with the book. Okay, not with this report. We'll get into that later. But there are reports, apparently, that Trump officials, senior officials inside the White House, will intentionally take things off of his desk before he has seen them that require his review and signature because they are trying to circumvent the behavior and his response.
Yeah.
That to me is treason.
It is.
Okay, right there, that is, if you worked in a company, that's immediate grounds for termination. But if you work for the government, you work for the White House, you work for the Trump administration, that is treason. Another quote, it's not just, it's not just that the special counsel looms large or that the country is bitterly divided over Trump's leadership or even that his party might well lose the White House to opposition hell-bent on his downfall. It kind of just goes on. And as I mentioned before, it just there's one thing after another. There's literally no telling whether he might change his mind from 1 minute to the next. The top official complained to me recently by an Oval Office meeting, which the president flip-flopped on major policy decision he had made only a week earlier. So, this is kind of like look, I'm going to rat the president out before I either get fired or before I resign, and I'm laying groundwork for a new position on the other side and a whole new career, because I really believe that if this person is found out, man, he is going to be the new hero of the left.
Now, I'm going to ask you for clarification. When you say the other side, do you mean the Democrats?
Yes.
Okay, because one thing that what this person points out in the beginning says, to be clear, ours is not the popular resistance of the left. We want the administration to succeed and think many of its policies have already made America safer and more prosperous. And so I'm wondering, because the Democrat Party right now, I feel like is in an identity crisis, because you've got the radicals in the far left.
They don't know what to do.
And then you've got those that are in what you would call the deep state with fellow deep state Republicans.
Yeah.
So I wonder if this is a person that would flip, like you said, and go to the Democrat side, or if this is someone that is working to try to get rid of Trump and still be within what we consider the deep state Republican Party.
That's a good question. I think that once their identity is known, they can pretty much kiss their career goodbye with the Republican Party. At least working for the Trump administration.
At least working for Trump.
That's exactly right. And for the time being, Trump isn't going anywhere.
No.
This is another example of just another one of those desperate moves by the left to try to get him. It's one thing after another, okay? Hey, there was Stormy Daniels. There was, the list is as long as my arm. This is just the top story of the week. Next week, it's going to be the book that is coming out. After that, it's going to be, but they just still cannot get them no matter what they do. This is just the most current one.
232-1542. All right, let's go to the phone lines right now. They are lit up. Caller, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Yes, it's going to be a great show, guys. You're doing a wonderful job. Just one thing. Whenever they find out who did this, they ought to give them a dirt nap. That's all I got to say.
Well, you mean kill him? Jeez.
Woo.
You're hard. That's harsh.
Ooh, all right, 232-1542. Let's move on to the next caller. You're on the air. Go ahead.
What I think is everybody on the left has been doing their best to separate Trump from the people who like him and trust him. I think this is an inside thing that is divide and conquer.
Yeah,
I agree.
I think you're right. Unfortunately, they haven't been able to divide anyone. And I think that the more aggressive that they get, when I talk about I'm talking about the left and the media that supports them. I think the more aggressive that they get, the more voters that he gains. I think that they are playing right into his playbook.
I agree with you 100%, and I say bring it on.
All right. Thank you, ma'am.
All right.
Appreciate that.
I'll say this. I think she embodies how many Trump supporters feel about this.
They're not
Bring it on.
Oh, yeah. They're not going to change any of the current supporters' mind about it.
All right. Well, we're going to take this quick commercial break. When we come back, more of this conversation with you here on Offsides. Welcome back into Offsides on this rainy Thursday afternoon. Now, before we get back into our conversation about the op-ed against President Trump, I want to tell you about a product that wants to keep you protected, help you keep your privacy, and save you some money. I'm talking about LA Solar Film, Acadiana's premier residential and commercial window tint service. LA Solar Film, their windows tint saves you money by reducing those utility bills. Also, people are less likely to break into your home if they can't see what's inside. So you've got to go to lasolarfilm.com to get a visual of how beautiful the tinted film looks and how it gives you that protection and privacy that you're looking for. And then while you're there, you can also enter the dimensions of your window into the website, and it will give you a better view of what you're looking at. It'll help you to further decide how good this product would be for your home. So again, go to lasolarfilm.com and go check them out. Also, LA Solar Film, they save you on your utility bills as well with the heat that we fight here every summer and beyond here in Louisiana. So please make sure you go check them out and make sure that you tell them you heard about them here on Offsides.
Yeah, great locally owned business. Okay, so back to the New York Times, which is now turning into a tabloid. They chose to publish an op-ed essay from an anonymous source who identifies themselves as a senior official in the White House. One of the quotes from the source, from this essay rather, and we're going to get right back to the phone lines, reads as follows. Meetings with him veer off topic and off rails. He engages in repetitive rants, and his impulsiveness results in half-baked, ill-informed, and occasionally reckless decisions that have to be walked back. So this is describing a situation that implies that the officials around him sit and let him rant and rave, and he gets completely off track, cannot focus on what the subject is, and then they have to walk back and redo whatever it is that he has screwed up. Mm-hmm. This thing kind of is longer than I thought it was when I first saw the headline. It's quite extensive, and it's all insulting, and as President Trump tweeted today, it's borderline and could be considered treason.
All right, 232-1542. We go back to the Cajun Harley hotline. Caller, you're up. Go ahead.
Brandon?
Yes, sir. Uh-huh.
Yeah. Okay. I understand completely and agree with everything you're saying, but we need to pay attention on how the Democrats are going to try to spin this, because like the other guy was talking about, they're going to try to praise this guy and raise him up. Mm-hmm. Remember the Democratic position is no one is above the law. Mm-hmm. That's why they're able to get to President Trump. This guy did simple treason. By definition of the law itself, is disloyalty or betrayal. Betrayal is when you help the enemy or give information, that's confidential. He's broken every loyalty bone in his body, mm-hmm. and is bent over backwards, appeasing the other side, of what Trump is trying to succeed. This guy's a turncoat. He needs to be prosecuted to the fullest extent.
Yeah,
all right.
I agree.
Thank you.
And I tell you, the whole thing with the media not having to reveal their sources, I've always been on the fence about that. I think that there are circumstances where they should not be able to use that. And this is one of those circumstances. This is one of our officials that is helping make decisions about the safety of our country. Releasing this essay, it's just one of those things. You or I could have written this.
Yeah.
Okay, you or I could have written this. This could have been written by somebody within the New York Times. This could have been written by anybody, and there's no way for us to know that simply because they are not required by law to reveal the source. And I think that when it comes to situations within the White House, the administration itself, I don't know. I would argue that. I would lose the argument, but I'd like to argue about it.
Well, working in, news media for the past about decade, there have been times where having anonymous sources have proven to be very valuable.
I got that.
It's somebody that doesn't want to go on the record, or they don't want to go on the record, but their information is valuable and can be helpful to the public. I think the unfortunate thing about this is, like with some good things that are in the gray area, it's being taken advantage of. I think it's being taken advantage of, especially during the Trump administration, having an anonymous source. Mm-hmm. And, he brought up a good point. He said, well, this anonymous source, what if this is just one of the people over at the New York Times
that's my point.
That's writing this as well? So they're abusing a luxury, if you will, that the media has had to be able to help get information out to people when they couldn't get it out through the normal channels. Mm-hmm. And so that's very frustrating to see as someone who's been in news, especially seeing that on the local level as far as unnamed sources go.
I see the value in the media being able to have that protection.
Right.
Okay. There are safety issues. There are legal issues. There are criminal issues. And so I think that it's got its time and place. Unfortunately, I can't see it applying to this situation right here because, as I mentioned before, they're talking about the 25th Amendment. He's talking about the 25th Amendment,
right?
And that is the first steps to what could be a coup.
232-1542. Back to the Cajun Harley Hotline. Caller, you're up. Go ahead.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Good.
Hey.
So my issue is with the way that President Trump responded to this. Because I think he played right into the New York Times' hands with this, because I feel like the reason that this op-ed was published to begin with was to allude to a scene of chaos within the administration. Right. And all that's going to do is drive his approval numbers down. So when he goes on Twitter and explodes with this vitriol, and I understand he's very frustrated, it must be very frustrating, but when he goes out and he explodes with this vitriol, starts throwing out words like treason, the more moderate crowd is going to see that and be like, oh, maybe there's something to this. It's kind of a chaotic tweet. And I mean, to be honest, this administration has been kind of chaotic.
I agree. I think that there is likely a lot of truth to this report. And I think that there is a lot of chaos. But here's the flip side to that. And here's why the Trump supporters like it. Because the chaos comes, in many cases, I believe, now none of us are there, okay, so all we have is our opinion. I believe that a lot of the chaos comes from the fact that he wants to, as a lot of people call it, drain the swamp. He has his way of doing things. They have their normal way of doing things, which is politics as usual, and he's coming in and saying, this is the way y'all been doing it for decades, generations. You've screwed everything up, and we're going to do it a different way. So I don't doubt that there's chaos.
Well, and I'll say this, talking about earlier, when you mentioned in one of your quotes of how, because I agree with what you said in that there's probably a lot of truth in this when it comes to what goes on behind the scenes. And one thing that this person talked about was President Trump and how he'll change his mind on something. Which, by the way, I'm sure when you're getting information at different levels the way that he is, I wouldn't fault the man for changing his mind on something.
I don't think it's unusual for any president.
Exactly.
I think that that's likely going to happen. I think that you see that with CEOs. You see it in upper management. You see it in lower management. Because what happens is you get more information. And that information gives you a different opinion. And then that opinion comes to that different opinion leads to change in your mind.
And you just said the key word, management. I think this is a person that obviously cannot handle President Trump's management and leadership style. And you know what? If you can't handle it, just get out and go do something else.
Yeah. And listen, I wouldn't like it, but I would at least understand it or be more receptive to it if this person resigned and then released this information.
Exactly.
Okay. But this whole anonymous thing, listen. If you want to divulge information that you think is important for the public to know, then that's what you do. You stand up and say, hey, you know what? I've been working in there, and this guy's screwing all kind of stuff up, and let me tell you about it. But you don't partner up with the New York Times. You can't have your cake and eat it too.
Absolutely. Look, I agree with you on the sense of, look, this person wanted to resign and then go and make a comment. Or an op-ed, that's one thing, okay? And that's not, to me, that would not be treasonous, okay?
Right.
Now, depending on how far the person went. But to do it in this sense and to continue to work to thwart the president from within, that's the part that borderlines on treasonous. I think it is. Now, here's a presidential historian, John Meacham, who was on MSNBC's Morning Joe and said that this really is an unprecedented move.
The remarkable thing about yesterday is this is a real-time historical trove, and it is not simply a matter of interest, it's a cause for action.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, just something unprecedented. 232-1542. All right, caller, you're up. Go ahead.
I find it incredible that these people just keep going on about a man that is a self-made billionaire. You can't have somebody that is chaotic and doesn't know what they're doing to get and accomplish what this man has done. Absolutely. What we have is a bunch of professional politicians.
Good catch, caller. Good catch.
Go on.
And the people that follow on their coattails that can't deal with this man coming in, and they're used to, like y'all said, the way things have been done. Oh, we'll just keep kicking the can down the road, and that's not the way this man works. This man works by getting things done, and that just goes against the grain with these professional politicians.
Yeah, I agree completely, and I think that that's one of the problems. I do believe that there's a lot of chaos, but I think that that's the main source of the chaos. I think that he's coming in with simple black and white, hard decisions, making decisions. They don't like it because, hey, look, but we can't do that. This person's going to get upset. Or we can't do this because we usually hook that guy up. All right, we're going to take a short break here on Offsides. Keep your phone calls coming in to 232-1542, Cajun Harley Hotline. Thanks for joining us in today's broadcast. We're talking about the op-ed essay that was released by the New York Times by an anonymous source identifying themselves as a top person in the Trump administration. I'm going to read part of it right now. A couple of quotes. The erratic behavior would be more concerning if it weren't for unsung heroes in and around the White House. Some of his aides have been cast as villains by the media, but in private they have gone to great lengths to keep bad decisions contained to the West Wing, though they are clearly not always successful. Now, you see right there, if you look at that, to me, that tells me that they are going to great, as he says right there, going to great lengths to keep bad decisions contained. So these are people that think that the decisions that the president is making are bad, and they're trying to either change his mind or keep it from getting out. Mm-hmm. And so I think that that undermines the president. It undermines the presidency. And I really hope that we find out who this is.
Let's go back to the phone lines. And then I want to point out one area that it was at the very end of the op-ed, which can sometimes get lost because of all the stuff that this person put before it. But we'll concentrate on that, too. 232-1542. Caller, you're up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to point out a few things, and it's something that just most people, either they forgot about it because there's so much spin these days, but whenever Obama was president, he surrounded himself in that White House with a bunch of foreign nationals that were not citizens here, and they had the highest levels of security clearance. Fast forward to DNC, the hacking. Hillary Clinton used the same people. They were IT guys. They were brothers. Set up all of those computers and had the highest level of White House security clearance. We're hiring foreigners to set our computers up, okay? So these guys ended up getting caught, but they ended up flying back to Pakistan, where they're from, to avoid prosecution. But yet we don't even know what those folks have on us or America. They had the highest levels of clearance. So think about this. They still have a lot of holdovers in the White House because Trump hasn't been able to get his cabinet in place yet. He has not even put his cabinet in place because they're not accepting his nomination.
They either keep resigning or he keeps firing them.
Well, I'm talking about the national picks. In other words, that has to go in front of the committees, and the committees have the final say-so.
Yes, sir.
And they have not. A lot of these people are Obama holdovers, so he's still working under the last regime.
Listen, I have no doubt that if anybody that was a senior official in any administration could write an article just like this, okay, against any seated president. If you pick apart and you follow the behavior of anybody on a day-to-day basis and you start taking notes of anything that people that don't know the whole story could see it in a very unfavoring light, you could come up with an essay like this about practically any manager, any CEO, any seated president or governor, mayor, any elected official that has any position of authority.
Yeah, I just think that it's sad that he could do so much better if he was running with his own partners in crime, per se, versus the agenda that's still running a lot of portions of that White House that he has no control over, even as president.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Good point. Thanks for the call.
All right, 232-1542. All right, so here's an area that I want to point out, reading a quote from this op-ed that was put out there. We may no longer have Senator McCain, but we will always have his example, a lodestar for restoring honor to public life and our national dialogue. Mr. Trump may fear such honorable men, but we should revere them. I think it's very interesting that he brings to light John McCain, who passed away very recently. He obviously tried to, or he or she tried to obviously position themselves in the light where John McCain is now, as he mentioned, revered by the media and by others that are opposed to Trump. So this person is trying to put themselves in the same light as that person. I think it's very interesting that this person...
Same light as McCain.
The same light as McCain, exactly.
Yeah.
So I think it's very interesting that this person is trying to put themselves together with McCain, because let's remember, John McCain is the one that passed along that Trump dossier over to Congress. Remember the dossier that has not been proven to be true?
Yeah.
I still remember the day that Rush Limbaugh was talking about it, and it was learned that John McCain is the one that passed this thing along. So John McCain passing along information like that, just like this guy thinks that he's doing good by the country by passing along this information in an op-ed to the American people.
Yeah.
It just makes me sick. This is the part about it that bothered me the most, is this whole thing about how John McCain is just this such anointed figure, this most amazing person. And I know we do that sometimes with people that pass away, but if John McCain had not passed away, I don't think we'd have this op-ed yet. I really think the fact that
you think that his death preempted this?
Preempted this, absolutely.
Huh. Well, that may be true, and you know what? I'd like to ask the author, okay, but we can't do that because he's scared.
Yeah.
You know, as I mentioned before, you can't have your cake and eat it too. If you want to I remember reading a quote years ago about whether or not you should make negative comments about your employer. And the quote said something to the effect of, if you want to bash your employer, do it after you have left the company. You don't do it while they're still cutting you a check.
Right.
And this is a perfect example of that. If you want to stay in this administration, then you stay and you support it, and you basically keep your mouth shut about things that you should keep your mouth shut about. As I mentioned before, think about the anonymous essays that could have been written about Bill Clinton and the behavior that he engaged in. And we only know a fraction of it, okay? Because if you find out, I think that his senior officials know where all the bodies are buried, okay? And I think that would have been a much more informative and probably entertaining essay. The point that I'm making is that if you want to resign, if you want to say these kind of things, you got to resign first.
232-1542. Caller, you're up. Go ahead.
Okay, you talking to me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Oh, I'm of a different opinion, guys. I believe it's fake.
Okay.
I believe it's either, manufactured from the newsroom itself. Because I've watched the Democrats for the last 2 years, until it turned my stomach and I'd have to cut the radio off. But it seemed like if they had a source, they would be glad to stir up just as much controversy as they could by naming names and saying, see there, his own people don't even like it. That proves it,
I think that there's some foundation to your opinion. I can't necessarily disagree with you. I'll tell you my opinion about it. I think that if we have not found out who this is within a month, I think it's fake. Because I think that if it's real, they're going to eventually weed them out, or this person is just going to come forward and say, I'm the person.
Yeah.
I think that if they still are anonymous within a month, then I would think I would give more of an opinion to it being fake. But I hear what you're saying. Yeah. Brandon could have written that. I could have written that. This could be the editor of the New York Times cousin that wrote it. How do we know? Because of this whole anonymous crap. But that would be my opinion. You give it a month, and if we still don't know who it is, then I'd be more suspicious of it being fake. But good. Thanks for calling.
Yeah, thank you. All right, 232-1542. Caller, you're up. Go ahead.
Yeah, as I pointed out on Ms. Carroll's show, the Democrats and the liberals and liberal news media are complete hypocrites, because when it was Edward Snowden, they were all against him, calling him saying he was guilty of treason. And even some Republicans took part in calling him, treasonous and so forth. But in this case, they are, all for, they're cheerleading whoever this is. And I kind of agree with the last caller. This could be fake news, but if it isn't, there's still a deep state. And if it is a senior official, it could be anybody. It could be Rosenstein. It could be Mueller himself. I mean, it could be anybody that's in the deep state.
Yeah, it could. Thanks for the call.
All right, we're going to go ahead and take this quick commercial break. When we come back, more of your thoughts as we continue talking about the op-ed that really rocked the news world yesterday. We'll be right back.
What's up, Acadiana? We're back here on Offsides. You hear that. It's time to talk a minute about Cajun Harley-Davidson. And Cajun Harley-Davidson has got such a fantastic warranty offer right now. It's called Warranty Forever. This is a limited lifetime powertrain warranty. It's available on every single new model that you could buy at Cajun Harley-Davidson, and it includes all of the pre-owned bikes less than 5 years old. It's got no mileage restrictions, and Cajun Harley-Davidson is the only dealership, Brandon, in the state within 200 miles in the state that you can get warranty forever.
Well, and one of the most cool things about it is it's no additional cost to the buyer as well. Now, regular maintenance is required, so make sure you go into Cajun Harley-Davidson and discuss the details with one of the sales team members.
Yeah, okay, so back to this New York Times op-ed anonymous essay that was published recently. Enter Melania Trump. Okay, the First Lady's statement says, if a person is bold enough to accuse people of negative actions, they have a responsibility to publicly stand by their words, and people have the right to be able to defend themselves. So I think that speaks volumes right there. You know, if you're going to say something, then you should be able to be proud enough and knowledgeable enough to stand by your own words. She also says that this person is trying to sabotage the country, and she describes it as cowardly actions.
232-1542. All right, caller, you're up. Go ahead.
Exactly. I think it's the epitome of cowardice in this situation to be anonymous. But I also think that I didn't see anything in that entire op-ed that couldn't have been written before John McCain died. And I've got a feeling that that's his last dig at the president, as much as he hated him, that he is behind this.
You think he may have written it?
Yep, I do.
Well, then it would be a lie then, because it says the writer is a senior official in the Trump administration, then that would be a lie if that was true.
Yeah, maybe that was just the guys.
So it's all a bunch of lies.
Yeah,
yeah. We know.
Yeah,
like you said before, it could be anybody.
It could be anybody. That's exactly right. That they kind of lose the credibility of their identity when they don't want to identify what their identity is.
Exactly. I would put money that he was involved in it if he didn't write it himself, and it was planned after his death to leak it to the new Inquirer. That's just my thought.
Thank you.
Good one. Thank you.
This person obviously had a reverence for John McCain, and I would venture to say was probably, if not John McCain, was good friends with him.
Yeah. John McCain may have proofread it.
Yeah, 232-1542. Caller, you're up. Go ahead.
Why are we assuming that the New York Times is being honest, that it was somebody inside the White House who
good point.
Wrote the op-ed?
I'm not assuming that.
What's not to say that it's someone on the New York Times editorial staff who wrote that, and then is saying that it's someone anonymous, and it's also somewhat hypocritical coming from the New York Times, where to comment on one of their articles, you have to put your first name, your last name, your email address. They don't allow anonymous criticisms of any of the articles that they publish.
Yeah.
But what's to say that it's not someone on their editorial staff?
I agree completely. I think that's I don't know if it's likely, but it's certainly very possible and even probable. As I mentioned before, I would become more suspicious that this is somebody within the New York Times posing as an official in about a month. I think that if it's somebody in the White House and it's genuinely somebody that works in the Trump administration as a senior official, I believe that they're going to find out who it is.
And I mean,
there are some congressmen, there are some people calling for Congress to investigate this.
Yeah, and look, this could be a situation where, hey, if this is someone that's not within the administration writing this, but just basically getting the president to just go on a mole hunt, just trying to, cause chaos within the White House.
Yes.
That's what this is seeking, is I think chaos within those that are loyal to the president. 232-1542, caller, you're up. Go ahead.
Yes, one thing I find very interesting is the continued use of the word treason.
Now, looking up the word treason and its definition, this in no way constitutes treason, which is waging war against your country or providing aid to the enemy.
Mm-hmm.
But what it does rise to the level of is sedition. Okay. Sedition is overt conduct that tends toward insurrection against the established order. Now, I'm taking these definitions off of Wikipedia, but they're very similar across other dictionaries. And why keep using the word treason when it's not treason, but it's clearly sedition?
You got a good point there, caller.
I think you're right. I don't think that that's the right term. I think it's just an easy term to go to when you think of a traitor.
Right.
Yes. Well, if you're going to throw out terms, you got to throw out the right terms, right? I mean,
okay, fair enough.
Sedition.
Yeah, sedition.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks for the call.
232-1542. Caller, you're up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I find it very easy to believe it's somebody in his administration because it's happened so many times publicly, where he tweets something or makes a statement and then Pompeo has to correct it.
Yeah.
Or any one of his cabinet members has to go back and issue a statement that's a direct contradiction to what he just talked about on Twitter, or either a collusion or something with the Justice Department or something with the FBI. So it's publicly been happening so much.
Well, you're right. No, you're right about that. I mean, look, President Trump goes off the cuff, in my opinion, too much.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why he gets contradicted later on by people within his administration.
He gets himself in a lot of trouble. He can't keep his mouth shut. I think that everybody will admit that. And I think most importantly, you know who I think would admit it? Him. I don't think that he would have one problem to say, you know what, I know I get myself in a whole lot of trouble, but this is who you elected, this is who I am, and I'm not going to change for anybody. And this is the reason that, I tell you, this is the reason a lot of his supporters keep supporting him. As much as we talk about it and we're frustrated with it sometimes, people love it.
I think it'd be very shocking to see him admit he made a mistake.
No, I didn't say he'd admit to making a mistake. I think that he would admit that he's got a big mouth.
Maybe we agree on that.
All right, fair enough. Thanks for the call.
Well, by the way, that big mouth, President Trump is going to have a big rally in Montana tonight.
Oh, now that's must-watch television right there. The entire thing is going to be about this.
You know
he's going to call him out.
Yeah.
He's going to say, if you've got any backbone whatsoever, and if you don't, you're a coward. I can't wait to watch
He'll use every name short of an actual curse word.
Yes.
in calling this person.
And listen, I'll tell you, I'll make a little prediction right now.
Yeah.
All right. If he gets reelected and into his second term, he's going to be beeped out all the time. He's going to start using curse words in public.
232-1542. All right, caller, you're up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think whoever wrote that article believes in superheroes as well. I think he has that syndrome of being a superhero. He might even dress up as one.
Who, Trump?
No, the writer.
Oh, the writer?
The op-ed writer.
Yeah. Well, don't be mistaken. I think that Trump's got his own cape.
All right, 232-1542. Caller, you're up. Go ahead.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
Man, I love your show, but I can't believe y'all even giving this lip service. It's obviously BS, the whole thing.
Okay.
Come on now.
Well, that's the reason we're talking about it.
What,
well, maybe
to not
it
talk
is.
about all the other important things?
Well, I mean, look, this is pretty important, okay? This is the New York Times. This is one of the biggest news outlets in the history of the world. And they're giving this person credibility, whoever it is. But I think it's a pretty big story, at least for today.
It's a sad day when we're talking about news as well. News coverage.
Oh, yeah.
They really have disgraced the news industry.
Yeah, that's the news.
Mm-hmm. All right, well, we're going to go ahead and take this break for news at the top of the hour. Brand new discussion coming up in the 5.
And, Brandon, we're going to talk this 5 o'clock hour about one of my heroes passed away today, Burt Reynolds. We have lost Burt Reynolds. The bandit himself has passed away, age 82. And so we're going to talk. Let's have a conversation about Burt Reynolds and his career. It's going to be a fun conversation about a sad piece of news that have come out today. Mm-hmm. And let's talk a little bit about his movies and the history of Burt Reynolds. You know, he was Mr. Hollywood in the 70s now. Yeah. Okay, I mean, he had it all. He had the muscles. He was handsome. He was funny. Mm-hmm. He was well-liked. He was non-controversial. And he was the man. And so, he made so many really fun movies and there was some serious movies. And so we can talk about those throughout the hour. And, of course, we'd like your opinions about it at 232-1542, the Cajun Harley hotline.
And we also want to put the question out there, what movie will you remember Burt Reynolds the most? I mean, he's got so many of them.
Yeah, I know. But to me, he's always the Bandit.
Well, yeah,
okay.
He is the Bandit.
Smokey and the Bandit, I remember being maybe about 12 years old when that came out. I must have gone, and it played at what was at the time, remember the Dollar Cinema?
Yeah, I remember the Dollar Cinema.
Okay, well, they had a Dollar Cinema in every city. And they had one, near where I grew up in the Metairie area. And I tell you, I must have gone and seen that movie 10 or 12 times at the Dollar Cinema.
Right.
And I never got tired of it. Let me tell you, it was only about a month ago, and I'm flipping through the channels, and there it is, Smokey and the Bandit. And my son had never seen it before. And we sat there and watched that movie and laughed. It was such a great fun, just a lighthearted film to watch. And it was one of my all-time favorites.
For me, the movie that I remember him the most, and this is my love of sports, it's The Longest Yard.
The original.
Yeah,
I agree.
And then, of course, later on when he came back and played a role in the remake. But The Longest Yard, it just, when I think of him, I think of, him mouthing off to the warden and in the face of just getting beat on by the guards. And everything, man, just the old Heisman Trophy winner that he was, playing football. It was kind of, to me, a nod back to the fact that he was an athlete before he became an actor. And It was a knee injury that hurt him, that actually turned him towards acting. So anytime I see an actor able to kind of go back to their roots and then use that to make a blockbuster movie such as The Longest Yard.
Yeah, I like
makes
that.
me appreciate it that much more.
Yeah, I agree completely. And I remember the line from that movie when he tells the warden, stick that in your trophy case.
Yeah.
Okay, so you bring up The Longest Yard in the remake and his role in that. Let me tell you one of the things I really like about Burt Reynolds is that as he got older, I like the fact that he did not let his ego get in his way of doing good work.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is that he started taking on roles there where he wasn't the primary.
Yes.
He wasn't the lead. And he added a lot to these films. And I'll give you a few examples. Boogie Nights, Striptease, The Longest Yard. There were a few more that come to mind, I'll tell you, I'll get to it in a second, but nevertheless, he put himself in these roles where he wasn't the lead actor, he was a secondary role, and I think that says a lot about him because he swallowed his ego. His ego didn't get in his way of doing good work and being involved in Hollywood. I think that you see a lot of actors fade away because they won't take those secondary roles. You're never going to see Anthony Hopkins in any role where he's not the lead actor. And I think that is too bad because right now, he's at the end of his career. He's getting older. I'm talking about Anthony Hopkins. Yeah. And I think that he could be still doing a lot of good work as an actor working in Hollywood if he would start taking some of those secondary roles that were out there.
Right.
And that's one of the things I really liked about Burt Reynolds is that he was involved in a lot of those movies where he wasn't the lead actor, but he added a lot to the film.
232-1542, Shannon, I think that's an excellent point because there's these movie stars, George Clooney. I think of him and how all he takes is these main roles.
Yeah.
And honestly, I made a comment to my wife the other day. I was like, George Clooney is the richest actor right now, and I've not watched anything that he's ever been in.
Right.
Because I haven't been drawn to watch any of his main movies, but because I also don't see him participating in other movies as well.
Yeah,
I don't watch anything that he's in.
There's a lot of them like that.
Yeah.
And I understand the fact that, when you get on in age and you have a higher standard when it comes to income, a lot of these guys are like, I'm not getting off of my couch unless I'm the main guy and if I'm making a lot of money. But I think that they're selling themselves short, and I think that they're selling their fans short, because if they would do things more like what Burt Reynolds did toward the end of his career and start taking these roles where they don't have to be in the limelight the entire time, I think that they would still enjoy their career in a lot of good ways.
I think it just makes them more beloved.
I think you're right.
When they do it. 232-1542. All right, let's go to the phone lines right now. Caller, you're on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Hey.
Good.
So I'm like you, Shannon. The movie that kind of is going to stay with me is going to be Smokey and the Bandit because It was one of those movies that I bonded with my father over. And I learned something very important from that movie, and that's if you're going to speed, make sure you got a buffer car so they get the ticket and you don't.
Yeah, right. Good point. Yeah, you need somebody in a Trans Am that's going to draw the attention away from all the cores that you're bootlegging across state line.
Exactly. All right, have a good one.
Thank you. You
thanks,
too.
Caller. All right, 232-1542. Caller, you're up. Go ahead.
Okay, so Burt Reynolds reminds me of classic country and classic rock. He's like an oldie but goodie. Like you can't describe him any other way. He's just classic. Like you said, he has class. And what really made me call in is because I want to say it was either 2 nights ago. I think it was 2 nights ago. My husband went in the attic and he grabbed some toys from when he was a kid. And in that box was a Smokey and the Bandit real metal, like metal truck, the trailer, and everything that, like from Smokey and the Bandit, like original toy, old school, not plastic. And whenever y'all brought it up, I was like, oh, I got to call and tell him.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you what.
So cool.
I'll tell you what, that toy just gained some value today.
Oh.
Well, he just started letting our little ones play with it, and they have been educated on how important this toy is above their lives.
Yeah, above their lives. That's right. No, it's one of those toys. This is how you handle those valuable toys from your childhood. When your children want to play with it, this is how you tell them. Listen, I'm going to put it right up here on the shelf, and look. Well, and all you have to do is look at it.
Yeah.
Okay, looking at it is how you're able to play with it.
Well, we're letting them play with it, but they can only play with it when we're home and we can watch to make sure it doesn't get destroyed. But like I said, it just made me think about it, and I definitely agree with you guys with the fact that Burt Reynolds was just classic. He just, and you could tell, like, this is what he loved to do because he didn't mind taking like you said, he didn't mind taking a different role, and it showed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And look, the one thing about that sticks out to me so much about him is how much he just enjoyed doing it and being an actor. Many times, like we said, not only do actors just want to take lead roles in movies, but they will only stick to movies and not go to television. Now,
That's right.
Watching actors that do movies and television, it's two completely different fields. A lot of times, two completely different ways of acting. But this guy would come back and play, even if it was for an episode, would come in and play on some of my favorite shows. I think of him coming back and playing the coach on King of Queens when Doug went back to his old high school.
Yep.
You know, there's some other shows as well that he just kind of came back, like My Name is Earl, and some of the other shows where he had a voice on a character on King of the Hill.
Yes, that's right.
He would just come back and play bit characters on our favorite TV shows. And again, I think that's what showed not only that he loved doing what he was doing, but I think it further ingratiated him to his audience.
Well, and it showed his versatility.
Yes.
And I think, and it showed that, you know, he did a lot of silly stuff.
Yes.
Okay. Smokey and the Bandit, and, you know, they did 2 or 3 of them, and those weren't so good. You know, once after the first one, it kind of got silly. And then, you know, he did lots of Sharky's Machines, Smokey and the Bandit 2, Hooper. You know, when he played the stunt guy, he did a lot of silly stuff, but probably the silliest was the Cannonball Run.
Yeah.
Okay, but he did have real acting skills, and I think that when he started doing these other things like you're talking about, it showed his versatility and his real talent. I was really impressed with his acting skills in Boogie Nights. Okay, I remember seeing that and seeing that he was in that movie and thinking, oh man, you know, this is going to be a joke. You know, what's going to happen with Burt Reynolds in this role? He was very good in it.
Thank you, caller.
Yeah, thank you, caller.
All right, 232-1542. We're going to go ahead and take this quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to continue remembering the life of Burt Reynolds here on Offsides, News Talk 96.5 KPEL.
Down the role of Michael Corleone in The Godfather.
I couldn't see him playing that
role.
Well,
he didn't.
Yeah.
Okay. He turned down Han Solo in Star Wars. He turned down Richard Gere's role in Pretty Woman.
Yeah.
He turned down Jack Nicholson's role in One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Bruce Willis's role in Die Hard.
Wow.
Jack Nicholson's role in Terms of Endearment. He also turned down playing Batman in the TV series. He turned down the lead role in Taxi Driver, Rocky, and MASH.
Wow.
Now, the role that he turned down in Rocky was the role that Mickey played.
Oh, the trainer?
The trainer. That's right.
Wow.
Sylvester Stallone was always going to, the deal was that he was going to play that. Huh. But, when you start putting that into perspective, this guy was offered a lot of things and that happened. Look, every one of these actors in Hollywood all have a list of incredible roles that they passed up on.
Right.
Where you say, what were they thinking? But they can't take everything.
No, and I think some of those he turned down. I think he was wise to turn them down.
Yeah, maybe.
232-1542. Caller, you're up. Go ahead.
A couple of things. First off, I think he and Sean Connery are similar in that they both just really like to act.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. That's a good parallel with Sean Connery.
And my favorite movie of his was Sharky's Machine. I saw that when I still lived in Chicago, and I was listening to some guys on the radio the next day talk about it on WGN, and they started talking about all the incredible music, and I'm like, wait a minute, music? I don't even remember any music. I went back and saw it again. Holy crap, that was some great music.
Yeah, that was a good one. Thank you.
Thank you, caller.
Now, I'll tell you an oldie but a goodie, and this one did not get a lot of attention.
Right.
But I really liked this movie watching it as a child, and I remembered it today. There's a movie that he did called W.W. and the Dixie Dance Kings.
Uh-huh.
And he's driving around this cool old car, and he's a criminal. But it's a lighthearted, it's not like hard criminal. He goes in, he robs a bank, and then they run around, they have fun. But it was a lot of fun, but a lot of fun to watch. But another big role that he played in was Deliverance.
Yeah.
Okay, now that was a really disturbing film, and I still have nightmares about that. Any man that has ever watched it will have those same nightmares.
Yeah.
But he played a really big role in Deliverance.
So when you mentioned Dixie and Criminal, it reminded me of the remake that came out around the same time when they remade The Longest Yard, when he played Boss Hogg in the remake.
Oh, that's right.
Yes, of the Dukes of
Hazzard.
Hazzard.
Dukes of Hazzard. That's exactly. See, that's what I mean.
Yes.
He played those. He took those secondary roles.
Yeah.
It was okay for him to not be in the lead.
And look, I know that Boss Hogg was kind of like a legendary character coming off from, what was it, the 70s or 80s whenever Dukes of Hazzard came out. Mm-hmm. But the approach that he brought to that role in the modern day in the 2000s.
Yeah.
Just kind of the suave and debonairness that he brought to the new version of Boss Hogg.
Yeah, it was good.
It was cool, man.
It was cool.
Yeah, 232-1542. Caller, you're up. Go ahead.
Hey, guys. How y'all doing?
Good. How are you?
Good, man. Y'all bringing back some old memories, My favorite movie, y'all mentioned both of them, Smokey and the Bandit and The Longest Yard. But let me look at it at a little different perspective. This may sound kind of strange, but I think he was kind of like Elvis in some ways, a rough Elvis kind, because he wasn't afraid to share the screen with a very big and popular cast, and he had the beautiful ladies with him.
Oh, you're right about that, brother. I'll tell you what. He definitely got around.
Sally Field and
Lonnie Anderson,
Lonnie
Anderson, Sally Fields, Tammy Wynette. He was with Chris Everett, Farrah Fawcett, Adrienne Barbeau, Dinah Shore. He wasn't a lonely man.
and not to mention Eddie Albert and Dom DeLuise and Jerry Reed and just all of these big time stars,
Yeah.
And they complemented each other, so he's gonna be missed definitely, and I'm gonna have to put it on my movie list to watch.
Yeah, definitely. A few others. Faye Dunaway, Dinah Shore. I mean, the list is long. I got a list right here, and it's like I mentioned before, he wasn't a lonely man.
Yeah. Now, one thing, let's go back to Sally Field, because Sally Field, what was interesting was there was an article that came out in Vanity Fair about 3 years ago, and Sally Field was kind of billed, and he talked about her as the one that got away.
Yeah.
And so I pulled a quote from that because it was one of those moments of honesty that I thought that he put out there in the article, where he said, "I miss her terribly. Even now it's hard on me. I don't know why I was so stupid. He said, men are like that. You know, you find the perfect person, and then you do everything you can to screw it up. And, you know, that late in life, I mean, he was about 79 when he said that, just kind of putting himself out there, just saying how stupid, he must have done a series of mistakes to go ahead and lose Sally Field, but just saying that to this day, it was still bothering him.
Yeah. Well, that proves his conscience.
Yeah.
Okay. And, you know, when he can own up to the mistakes that he made as a younger man. And the sad thing is that he still carried the guilt and regret.
Yeah.
And, but, you know, he found, like I mentioned before, he found a lot of lovely ladies to spend many an evening with.
232-1542. All right, caller, you're up. Go ahead.
Hello?
Hello.
Oh, hi. To spend an evening with, he had one of the best sitcoms on TV. It was called Evening Shade.
Yeah, it's on my list here. It was texted to me by my mom.
And it was about the South, but we didn't look stupid. Or at least I didn't think we did. But that was one of the funniest shows on TV. And you say how you can be versatile. You know, how an actor should be versatile. He had that was one of the funniest sitcoms. Mary Lou Henner played his wife. Charles Dunning was in it. Michael Jeter was in it. And, he was excellent. Michael Jeter was excellent in it.
Yeah.
And he's dead now too. But that was one of the funniest sitcoms I recall seeing. And,
you know, I can't say that I ever watched it, but now I'm curious. I want to pull it up and watch it.
It was funny. It was well written. I think it was written by those people from Arkansas who were the friends of the Clintons. It was funny. Evening Shade. It was funny. And Boogie Nights.
Yeah.
He was outstanding, and he was robbed of an Oscar. He was the best.
He won I think he won the Oscar.
The best supporting actor.
He did not.
No,
he did not.
No, you're right. Then he got robbed.
He did get robbed, and Barbara Walters interviewed him before the Oscars. You know how she does that interview show of some of the nominees?
Yeah.
And she said, "What will you do if you don't win?" And he goes, "It will be the best acting job you've ever seen."
Good answer. Good answer.
Y'all have a good afternoon. Thanks.
All right,
you too. Thanks for calling.
No, and look, and she is right. As a matter of fact, he did not win the Oscar for that.
Who did?
I don't know.
Okay.
But I'm looking at his list. I mean, he was nominated Best Supporting Actor for Academy Awards, nominated with the BAFTA Awards and the Chicago Film Critics Association. But yeah, no, he was nominated, like we said, but he did not win Best Supporting Actor in that. So yeah.
All right.
Yeah, that's true. Okay. All right. Thank you, caller. All right. 232-1542. All right, caller, you're up. Go ahead.
Hey guys, I'm 52, so really hearing this news is kind of like it's really kind of sad for me because this was really a great part of my growing up, going to all the movies and but you know one thing I remember that y'all haven't mentioned yet is you know Burt Reynolds' appearances on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson, and he had such a great sense of humor. You know, it wasn't scripted lines like you would see in a movie or something, and of course you would see the outtakes in a lot of these movies too, by the way, with him and Dom DeLuise cutting up and stuff. So what I'm trying to say is he had a great sense of humor, as well as being a man's man, a tough guy, you know, a character of sorts, a debonair kind of a guy. So I mean, he was somebody that really you know everybody loved to watch. You know, I think guys really wanted to be like him. Women thought he was the greatest thing. So that's kind of a real big loss for people my age, I think. You know, he's a really great actor, had a really great sense of humor.
Yeah. I mean, he's a total package, okay? You know, in his prime years, I guess you could say, he was handsome, he was muscular, he was athletic, you know, he was debonair, but he was funny too, you know, and that's important. And I think that made him very likable.
Thanks, caller. Well, you know, when you talk about the looks, I mean, think about the big stash, you know, the big mustache that he and like Tom Selleck made popular and were able to pull that off. 232-1542. Go ahead, Shannon.
Okay, well, I got it right here. It was in 1997. He lost to Robin Williams in Good Will Hunting.
Okay, well, that was a phenomenal movie.
Yeah,
man.
It was a good movie, but I still wish he would have won.
Yeah. All right, 232-1542. We'll go ahead and take this quick commercial break. When we come back, more of your calls here on Offsides.
When he was the younger
actor. He played a lot of black and white shows on Gunsmoke.
Yeah.
He was
Shannon and I were talking about that before. I didn't realize he was in Gunsmoke.
Well, I never really watched Gunsmoke. It was one of those ones kind of before my time.
Yeah.
But, I know that he was on there.
Yeah. A very, very good actor and a great loss.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank
Thanks
you,
for the
caller.
call.
All right.
Burt Reynolds just was the epitome of cool.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I think of when I think of Burt Reynolds. Like I mentioned before, he was like the total package, but he was non-controversial. And over the entire span of his career, I can't think of one time where people were complaining about him. He was completely non-controversial. Everybody liked the guy.
Yeah.
And that's hard. It's hard for you to come across people in any career, but especially in Hollywood, because they're so cliquish and cutthroat and backstabbing in Hollywood, just like in politics. It's hard to come across somebody, you look over the entire span of their career, and they don't have any controversy or any battles, any enemies, at least none that you hear about in the mainstream. And so I think that speaks volumes for who he was.
All right, we go back to the Cajun Harley hotline. Caller, you're up. Go ahead.
Yeah, my favorite movie
Yes, sir.
was The End.
Yeah, hilarious.
With Dom DeLuise.
With Dom
And the
DeLuise.
best part of the end was the end of the end. And it was a good show. And I won't spoil it for you, but it was a great flick.
Yeah, 1978. You're exactly right. I remember that movie, and it's another one of those, one of those great films that shows his versatility because it was a comedy and it was really funny. And Dom DeLuise, they were perfect together.
Oh, yeah, it was great. In fact, I'm going to go look that up and watch it again tonight.
All right, man. Thanks for the call.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, 232-1542. Caller, you're up. Go ahead.
Hey, Brandon and Shannon. Just a couple things. You ever watch Burt Reynolds' movie Stroker Ace?
Never seen that one.
Man, I watched it, but it was a long time ago. I don't even remember what the plot was.
Exactly. So now that Grim Reaper has taken away a lot of my favorite people this year, now they're taking away Burt Reynolds, maybe I need to let Grim Reaper know that Hillary Clinton's my favorite politician.
No.
I don't know, man.
No.
That's kind of brutal, but I hear you.
But would we miss her? No.
No, I wouldn't miss her like we miss Burt Reynolds.
Yes.
Okay. I might miss the fact that she wouldn't be around to make fun of, but to make fun of anymore. She's a perfect target when you're bored.
Well, Burt Reynolds has definitely contributed more to us than Hillary Clinton has. That's for damn sure.
Good point.
Right.
That's a good point. All right, so back to some of the movies. All right, so Hooper. I remember when Hooper came out, and Hooper was a big deal because that was really in the peak of his career. Yeah. And that's another movie that a lot of people don't realize he made with Sally Fields. Okay, he was with Sally Fields in that movie. She played his love interest in Hooper. And, he's a stunt man in Hollywood. And, there's the whole thing where he crashes cars and crashes motorcycles. And, it was a pretty fun, lighthearted, good movie. Typical Burt Reynolds.
232-1542. Back to the Cajun Harley hotline. Caller, you're up. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's a couple of them, like I said, the major ones everybody's mentioning, but there was a couple he did, another football flick he did with Chris Christopherson was Semi-Tough.
Oh. Yeah, I remember that. I remember that.
That, again, was a really good use of his football career. And then one of the later ones with the Entourage thing, there was a movie called The Crew, where he was one of four old gangsters, kind of retired, and then they get in trouble and get back into stuff. And again, it doesn't have to be the star, just added a lot to the movie, just being part of the crew.
Yeah, I don't remember that one, but you're right. Perfect description. He doesn't have to be the star, and I like that about him.
Yeah.
Thank you for the call.
All right, 232-1542. Caller, you're up next. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not sure if you guys mentioned this movie or not, but one of the more recent movies, I say more recent, the last several years ago, that he did that was pretty funny was Cop and a Half, where he was a police officer and he had a little kid that was his associate partner that witnessed a murder. It's hysterical. If you haven't seen it, you really need to watch it.
Cop and a Half.
Yes, sir. Cop and a Half. It's real good.
1993. I got it right here. I'm going to remember.
All right. Thank you, caller.
Thank you, caller.
All right. 232-1542. Caller, you're up. Go ahead.
Yeah, I kind of missed the first half of the show, but not sure if y'all mentioned, talked about Deliverance.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we
Scary
touched upon
stuff.
it, yeah.
Oh, okay, guys. Thanks.
No, that's okay. Thank you.
I'll tell you, I just got this. All right, this is interesting.
Okay.
He was the first nude model in Playgirl.
Wow, okay. Did not know that.
How about that? He was the first nude male model in Playgirl magazine.
All right. 232-1542. Caller, you're up.
What's most disturbing about that is that my mother sent me that information. What are you doing, Mom?
Yeah. All right. Caller, you're
scarred for life.
Caller, you're up. Go ahead.
That just means your mom's cool, Shannon.
I know that. Cooler than me.
Hey, no, he was just flat out an American icon, period. I mean, there's no question about it. Burt Reynolds to me, is just American icon. Him and Dom DeLuise working together, to me, reminded me of the Rat Pack, Sammy Davis Jr.
Yeah.
And they just had that flow with them. Dean Martin and Sammy Davis Jr. were hilarious together. And I think Burt Reynolds and Dom DeLuise had that same
they had that chemistry. They had that chemistry between the two of them where, it was very believable and it was very funny, and they just had that pattern, and it worked very well between the two of them. You're right.
Yep, exactly. And again, he's just American icon.
Thank you, caller.
Thank you, caller.
All right, 232-1542. Caller, you're up. Go ahead.
Hi, is it me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, hello.
I'm calling about the centerfold. This is my favorite memory of Burt Reynolds. He didn't have to open his mouth or anything. He just laid there.
Yeah.
And I thought, I don't drink, but ooh la la, baby. Give me a bottle of wine. I'd get drunk on that road.
Well, I tell you what, I'm speechless for the first time in a long time. Yeah, I tell you what, just like one of the callers earlier talked about their husband had a Smokey and the Bandit toy that they just recently rediscovered in the attic. Anybody right now that's got a print of that Playgirl magazine, that's going to be very valuable right now.
Well, he wasn't naked. He was covered in the one I saw. So I wasn't sure if it was Playgirl or Cosmopolitan, but it was one of those. But he was just absolutely gorgeous, the top of his game. He was a class act all around, all through his life, and we're going to miss him very much.
Yeah, all right. Thanks for the call.
All right.
Appreciate that.
And on that one, we will go ahead and take this break. All right, callers, we appreciate all the memories. Just keep them coming as we got one more segment to go.
Hey, welcome back to the show, everybody. We're talking about Burt Reynolds, who passed away today, 82 years old. A lot of great and fun conversations, people calling in, sharing their memories and their opinions about the movies that Burt Reynolds starred in and co-starred in. And so the phone lines have been lit up. Let's go see what other people have to say.
All right, caller, you are on the air. Go ahead.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
Listen, I'm not going to bring up the movie. I'm going to bring up the scene, which was my favorite scene. And that was the one that said, and it was about like five sentences long. It says, don't you ever take off that stupid hat? And he answered back, I take off my hat for one thing and one thing only.
Yeah, I remember the scene.
Oh, and she says, take off your hat.
Yeah.
And then she said, I mean, if you want to. And he said, I want to.
Yeah.
I thought that was the greatest single dialogue for Burt Reynolds, because he just carried it off so perfectly.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, because he was cool enough to do it. He just had that cool thing about him. He was comfortable. He was so comfortable in his own skin. And, even though he had that coolness that we're talking about, what I like about him as an actor and what I like about him as an individual, he never came across as being arrogant. Okay? Yeah. He just never came across as being rude and arrogant. He knew he was cool, and his ego was so secure that he didn't have to let anybody know about his ego.
And one more thing is, after watching that movie, did you or did you not want a Trans Am?
Oh, to this day, I still want one.
To this
day, I still want that exact same Trans Am with the gold eagle across the hood. Yeah, it was really a cool moment.
Thanks, caller. All right, 232-1542. One of his other roles we haven't talked about as well was when he played Charles Spahn, the owner of the ranch where Charles Manson and his followers lived. Oh. See, he played, I mean, this guy was so versatile, man.
Yes, he was very versatile, and he stayed busy. Yeah. And I really like that about him. You know, he kept on working. Mm-hmm. As you mentioned, he was about to do another movie with Quentin Tarantino, and so I really would have liked to have seen that, but unfortunately we won't.
All right, caller, you're up. Go ahead.
Yes, I can't. I joined this conversation late. Don't know how much, if at all, y'all spoke of it, but I know he got his start, or at least the biggest part of his start, on Gunsmoke.
Yeah, I believe you're right. He was on Gunsmoke.
Oh no, I can promise you I'm right.
All right.
His name on the show was Quint.
Okay.
Asper. And he did a real good job. I mean,
what was his role on Gunsmoke?
He was the blacksmith, and he was a half breed. He had a Indian mom and a white dad, and they were both murdered out on the prairie, and that's what got him to Dodge, looking for the men that did it. And he just kind of became Matt's sidekick in that every time Matt had to leave town, Quint was his part-time deputy. And he'd go out in the field with him, and I don't know if that was his first acting job, but it was for sure one of his first. But he did a great job then. He was a fine actor then. And I really enjoyed it. Still watch the old Gunsmokes with Quint in it.
How many? Look, I'm not asking for a number, but how many episodes did he play in? Was it for a season? Was it for a few episodes?
It was probably close to 2 seasons.
Okay. Early on in the series, or middle, or later?
I wish I could tell you exactly, but I would say the 60s, because Gunsmoke was playing in the 50s. It wasn't that early. He actually played between Chester, Dennis Weaver, and Festus. Festus was, I can't think of his name right now. He was one of the Sons of the Pioneers. That's how he got his start. But I'm pretty sure a couple of seasons. May have been 3, but at least a couple.
Yeah, interesting.
Right. Thanks, caller.
Thanks for the call. Yeah. Appreciate that.
You bet.
All right, well, let's get one more call in here. Then we're going to take like a quick break, and we're going to come right back to finish off something. All right, caller, you're up. Go ahead.
Yeah, wasn't Burt Reynolds the first male nude centerfold in I forget what magazine it was?
It was Playgirl. You're absolutely right. We mentioned that a little while ago. He was the first male nude model to be in Playgirl. Ugh.
Thanks, caller.
And he was hairy.
All right.
Thanks for the call.
All right, we're going to go and take this quick break. We'll be right back to wrap up the show right after this.